I think it's at Easter Hill. Okay, where's my cursor?
She's fine. She didn't make it. She didn't make it. I think that's overwhelming to her. It's just the thought of sitting. I tried to tell her. Not with that specifically, but she said other things. She's really hard of hearing.
Father Tom, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I can hear you fine.
Oh, we can hear you fine too. Just wanted to do
Okay.
a sound check before we got too
Okay.
far into this.
Good. Good morning.
Good morning. We're still waiting for our siblings, but we're recording and we'll, I'll just run through some of these announcements again. All of our interfaith services, well, 2 of the 3 were recorded and are up on our YouTube channel, and last month's elected council meetings there as well. You're part of the dialogue, right? Interesting event coming up that the MTO Sufis are inviting us to on Sufism and architecture. That's later today at noon. The registration link's in the agenda. And then our iCare event that's coming up is December. They do need someone with a truck. So if you have a truck or know someone in your congregation that's willing to help deliver food to the schools in West County, talk to Dave Longhurst. Multiple congregations. This is a huge West County mobilization to get food into all of the homes in West County that need it the most. Our hearts continue to be with Ukraine, recognizing it's well past 10 months since the war started, but this is the first full winter that they'll be a part of it. And so we pray for Ukraine. Our next meaningful Monday will begin with a small, short book that'll probably just take us 3 months or so, called Sufism, A Bridge Between Religions. And so if you want to grab it, our next conversation will be on January 9th at noon. Good morning, Dave. Rodney Lemery, Reverend Rodney Lemery is our moderator today, member of our governing board. So thankful that you're here. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and it's wonderful to be with you all. I hope you're doing well in these holiday seasons. So we'll begin our agenda today by asking us to approve the November 10th minute meetings or meeting minutes rather. So I think you all received a copy of those and had a chance to look at them. So I can entertain a motion to approve if there are no discussion points.
Make a motion. Oh, wait.
Oh, okay. So it looks like do we have a second? Father Tom seconds. All in favor? Great. So it looks like the minutes have been approved. Thank you.
Leonard, I think you might have 2 openings. Do you have 2 computers connected with two of them open? I think that's why we're getting the feedback.
Great.
Thank you.
And Reverend Will, I think you now are going to lead us in our land acknowledgement and opening statements.
Will, you're muted.
Thank you. As we acknowledge the lands upon which we work, serve, and play upon, especially recognizing we may be on Ohlone or Bay Miwok or Tachiyokut's lands, all of them found Tuishtak, what we call Mount D, to be sacred land. And this month we're learning more about the people commonly known as the Sami people of northern Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Russia. Here are a few things that you may have never heard about them. The Sami are a group of indigenous people that come from the region of Sapmi, which stretches across the northern parts of Norway, Sweden, Finland, and the Kola Peninsula of Russia. No one exactly knows how many Sami people there are, but estimates range from 50,000 to 200,000. On February 6th every year, they celebrate Sami People's Day. They wear traditional clothes, eat traditional food, and fly their own flag. Their traditional outfits, known as the gakti, are worn at parties, festivals, weddings, baptisms, funerals, and more. The handmade outfits are decorated with different designs so the Sami can easily tell where another person is from. They're best known for their reindeer herding. The reindeer meat is used for cooking, leather and fur is used to make shoes and clothing, antlers, bones make useful tools and decorative objects. They're skilled fishers and sheep herders. The reindeer is so important to their way of life that many people go to a special university to learn how to care for their animals. Like we might have classes in math or English, they have classes that teach them how to look after their reindeer herds. Pretty cool. They have 9 different Sami languages, and thankfully the word reindeer is the same for all of them. If you've ever seen the movie Frozen 2, the make-believe Northuldra tribe of the Enchanted Forest are based on the Sami of northern Norway. During the film, Elsa and Anna learned that their mother was one of the Northuldra people, which makes the sisters half Northuldran. They're semi-nomadic, meaning they don't stay in the same place all year. Sami herders migrate with their reindeer during the seasons, heading to the mountains for winter and coming back with the community in the summer. On their journeys, they'll camp in a traditional tent called a lavo. It's a circular frame of poles leaning inward toward a pointy top, similar to teepees or wigwams by some indigenous peoples of the America. And traditionally, the Sami people live in a group of families called a sida, which is used to describe both the reindeer herding area and the team of people who look after their herd. They have their own parliaments to represent them in Norway, Sweden, and Finland, and their own newspapers and radio stations that report on issues that concern their people. We have a couple people read the covenant.
Will, can I make a comment out of that?
Oh, please.
We were up in northern Norway and did a tour, and I asked the driver, what's the difference between the Sami people and the Laplanders? And he got incensed because calling them Laplanders is very derogatory. They do not like that. They consider that always a very derogatory remark. So he explained to me that it's just a matter of terms, that they're the same people, but they want to be called Samis.
Thank you so much for that information. And as our work as an interfaith council is about understanding difference, it's important for us to learn how to do that for many, many people, especially in this kind of time of meta-modernism, kind of moving beyond post-modernity. We just need a couple volunteers to read the covenant. Let me get it back up. Who's willing to step forward?
I can.
Come on. Go ahead and start, Diane, and then Ginny will do it, the second panel from here.
Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We all have different communication styles and varying views. We commit to be in dialogue with respect for all, expanding, listening to hear multiple points of view. We realize that we are responsible for the growth of I4C, and each of us share a duty to interfaith growth. The governing board provides leadership, and the elected council works towards progress and the fulfillment of I4C goals as we grow.
And here's Ginny.
We recognize that we are imbued with interfaith responsibility. As such, we commit to hold ourselves and each other accountable to merit that trust. Respect for the diverse traditions, beliefs, and spiritual paths of all those we encounter. Hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards and accountable to our communities and to I4C. Our shared time together is interfaith time. We commit to honoring the start and end times each time we meet.
Thank you.
And so now I think we're going to have a reflection this morning from on Buddhism and maybe something eclectic from Greg Kremenliev. Greg, are you? I think I saw you.
Thank you very much, Rodney. You know, I am going to speak briefly. What Will had asked me to talk about was my spiritual journey, you know, which has ended up in a sort of an eclectic Buddhism. But let me give you a brief sort of a history, and that is my spiritual journey really began many years ago in a small village called Razlan in Bulgaria. A village of about 5,000 people in the southern part of the country, part of historical Macedonia. About a village that my grandfather, whom I never met, was a preacher, and he was a Protestant preacher. Now, Bulgaria, as you might know, is Eastern Orthodox primarily, probably 90% or more of the people. So they're in a town of 5,000. I don't think there were a lot of Protestants, but my grandpa was a preacher, and I guess he was a doctor and a lawyer and postmaster and did a lot of stuff at like little towns. So my dad came over to this country when he was 17 years old, and then ended up moving to Los Angeles with my mom, and he, as my sister and I were growing up, our spiritual journey was, I'll say, a futile, never-ending quest for what kind of a religion was it that my grandpa was preaching. Was it Congregationalism? Was it Presbyterian? Was it Methodist? Was it Episcopalian? But the favorite place, and my sister was better than I was. I always resented having to get dressed up and put a suit and tie on. That was not to my liking. But the church that I liked the best was the Santa Monica Unitarian Church, where Reverend Ernie Pipes, whom I understand just passed away last year. Is that true? Just a remarkable man, and that church inspired me. So my spiritual journey from then on has always had a social justice, civil rights component to it wherever I've wound up. But I just also remember that one of my dad's dear friends, a man named Henry Clark, wrote a lot of hymnals in the original Unitarian songbook. And Henry and my dad were both professors at UCLA. And in the 50s, when McCarthy and the loyalty oath came into being, my dad signed the loyalty oath, and I really resented him for doing that. Henry Clark did not sign the loyalty oath, was fired from UCLA, and had to move up but he went up to the University of Washington and taught there. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that my father had responsibilities. He was a family man. Henry and Julia Clark had no kids. But anyhow, I kind of got first exposed to Eastern philosophies during college, the hippie era at UC Santa Cruz. And I remember Allen Ginsberg coming up and chanting the sundown, one evening, and just, reading some assorted Eastern sort of, mystical stuff. And then I kind of took about 40 years to raise 4 kids and sell insurance and do a few other things, and really paid almost no. Well, one more thing is my wife was raised a devout Catholic, and we were married in a Catholic church by the UC Santa Cruz pastor, who was a very cool dude. but anyhow, so didn't pay much attention other than thinking, having a lot of respect for Quakers, and just not really thinking much about spiritual things until I accidentally ran into Will. And this was, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Will showed up to a meeting of an organization I was active in, the Contra Costa County Normal, the national organization for the reform of marijuana laws. And Will showed up to one of our meetings, invited by a friend of mine. And I popped in on a Meaningful Mondays and took the anti-racism course, and just got really bit by the interfaith bug, and have grabbed, as I've explored my own spirituality, as you can kind of imagine, it's tied up with my life journey. And the Buddhist, Thich Nhat Hanh, living in the moment, is something that I practice. In fact, I've got a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, on my desk. And I've always been impressed with especially the Zen ability to just focus on the now and live your life with love. So I kind of sort of, to wrap up, I'm 75 now. I figured that the first 3 quarters of my life prepared me to get to the last quarter of my life, where the spiritual journey is going to be absolutely marvelous. And I just love everyone I've met from the Interfaith Council. So I hope that is what you guys wanted.
Thank you so much, Greg. And this explains a lot with some of our interactions. As a Unitarian Universalist, it's lovely to see you. Dennis Wasco, we would love to hear an update on SOJA.
Thanks, Rodney. And Greg, thank you so much for that journey. And as Greg said, which is part of many of our faith communities, social justice plays a big part. And so today I'd just like to talk a little bit about SOJA and what we're doing. And so in SOJA, most of our people are involved in various other social justice groups throughout the county. For example, the East Bay Housing Opportunity, Multi-Faith Action Coalition, FAME, the Faith Alliance for a Moral Economy, and the Poor People's Campaign, and also the Cal Interfaith Power and Light. So SOJA is kind of a gathering place for all of those various activities that are going on. So we kind of monitor what the various opportunities are, and try to get that out to the EC and out to the Interfaith Council. And so we kind of provide a resource and perhaps a bit of a clearing ground for that. We also monitor the work of government at all levels, state, local, national, and try to sit in on various committees and sit in on the workings of government. Some of the main issues on our plate are affordable housing, homelessness, racial justice, law enforcement reform, income equity, and climate change. And so we work on a lot of various projects. Also, the the Concord Naval Weapons Station, the Miles Hall Clinic, most recently the Rent Stabilization Ordinance for Antioch, various other advocacy type of things. What we're looking forward to in the future is to work more closely with the social justice groups in your various congregations. I think most congregations have a social justice group, so we'd like to really tie into that and to get to be kind of a center liaison for those groups. So we'd like to know what your social justice group is doing and how perhaps we can help, how we can provide resources, how we can be a reference point for your different groups. And so in the new year, we're going to put out a survey asking all of our 119 congregations who would be the contact person for social justice in your particular organization. Who might want to be part of our social justice group, and also what the various needs are of the different social justice groups in your congregations. How can we really help? And so as a result, to do all of this, we're going to need more people on our committee. We'd like to get a little bit more diversity in our committee. We'd like to get more people from the East Bay and from the West County. I mean, not East Bay, East County and West County. And we'd also, perhaps like to get a few more younger people involved so that we can carry on our good work. So to sum it up, I'd like to know, what is your passion in regard to social justice? What really turns you on? What really gets you involved? And can you bring some of that to our group? Can you be an active member of SOJA? And so we have lots of issues, as you know. There are lots of social justice issues. The list keeps on growing, and we certainly would love to have you be part of our team and to help us with this work. So please let Will know or myself. We're all on the new list that Will has sent out. So all of our contact information is there. So thank you.
And we're going to be updating. We'll be updating that contact list soon as well, because there's a few updates that we need to make for some important emails and phone numbers and a few things too. Right now, the SOJA meets on the second Wednesday at 3:30, but we're willing to move that to a different time that works best for all of the new folks that want to join SOJA. So if you'd like to join us, please talk to Dennis or myself and we'll get you connected.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Dennis.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Thanks so much for everything you're doing with SOJA. And now I think, Father Tom, you have a presentation for us. Oh, there you are. You're in the upper part of my screen.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. And I hope everybody can hear me okay. I apologize ahead of time if I start to lose my voice or have some difficulties with that. I guess it's my old age is catching up with me. I want to make sure we're in gallery views so that I can see everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank the council for this opportunity. Anything I say, I hope is a faithful, accurate, respectful summation of where we stand as an interfaith council. But if it so happens that I say something that is not exactly accurate, I take responsibility for that and hope that together in our future dialogues, we can grow together. we thought it might be a good idea for us to spend a considerable amount of time. I believe I have till 9:30, is that correct? To do this overview. I sent a summation sheet to Will last night, and perhaps we can send that to you sometime in the course of this meeting or in the near future. But rather than follow pieces of paper, I thought I would share with you some thoughts that create this sense of orientation and overview. First of all, the mere fact that we gather together as a diverse community is the practice of interfaith spirituality, interfaith love, and interfaith respect. Oftentimes, when people such as ourselves get together, we can be tempted to do one of two things: lament the way the world is, isn't it a shame? And hope that someday in the future, we will get our act together as a human race and be able to come together in a sense of solidarity, love, mutual respect, and concern. The good news is, whenever we come together, even if it's for an hour and a half on a Thursday morning, what we long for in the future is being realized in the present. So we are not people who always come together with an agenda for the future. We don't always come together as, what are we going to do tomorrow, people? We do not always come together making work lists. We need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do the other thing. Then we fall behind and we get frustrated. The mere fact that the diversity that's in this room today is assembled is the practice of interfaith peace, love, and respect. So it's critically important for us to remember that whenever we gather together, what we're working for in the future is being realized in our coming together in the here and now. The great Lutheran pastor said, individuals must never forget the great blessing it is to be in the presence of another person. Religions cannot come together. Systems cannot come together. Ideas don't come together. Catholicism and Judaism don't walk down the street together. Real people do. So whenever we come together, it would seem to me that according to whatever our faith tradition is, our philosophy, our cultural, our transcendental practices, that we first of all exert great gratitude. Gratitude to the divine, gratitude to the core of our being, gratitude to the ground of the universe. If you look at human history, it is not too far back when an assembly such as ours would be unimaginable. There are still forces at work within the world that would divide the people who are in this room today. There are people who would compromise the human rights of human people. There are people who would take us back into the dark ages by which women, people of color, would be considered not even human beings or not complete human beings. There are people in this room today who may have come from faith traditions where not too far in the past would be considered to be a sinful event. When I was a little boy, I was told that if I walked inside a Protestant church, just walked inside of it, I would be damned. Of course, God blessed me with a certain spite and a certain inability to buckle under authority. So as soon as somebody said to me, I'm not allowed to go to a Protestant church, the first thing I did was find a Protestant church and went to it, and was shocked that the world did not come to an end and I didn't die. So just think of your own faith journey. I understand that there are faith traditions out there who, from their inception, had a deep and remarkable love for other people and for the diverse traditions of the world. But unfortunately, they have been in the minority. Most of us have gone on a significant journey to be in this room today. So what you bring to this room today is the experience of your lifetime and the wisdom of your courage. And for that, we have great thanks. There are several things I would like to say to you by way of introduction. One, we are gathered together in this room, and we are especially concerned and welcoming those who are joining us for the first time. We are here that all of us together might discern how we might be of service to the world around us through our participation in the work, outreach, and dream of the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County. It's not too long ago in the council that we had debates. Is our concern with Contra Costa County, or is our concern with the world? Should we make comments and be involved in what's going on in the world, or should we restrict ourselves to the issues that are in Contra Costa County or perhaps the East Bay? Upon profound reflection, we discover something that may be obvious, but it's not too obvious till you do some profound reflection. Contra Costa County is in the world. There is no issue in Contra Costa County that ends when you go to Alameda. I wish I could say that the only place in the world that has the issue of houselessness is Antioch, California. I just came back from Denver. You can't walk 2 minutes without seeing the devastation of houselessness and the insufficiency of the mental health care system. In point of fact, upon even deeper reflection, Contra Costa County is one of the most diverse places I know. It's an intersection. So if you were concerned about issues that are in Contra Costa County, you would be at an intersection of world concern. Look at any one of our communities, look at the religious diversity that's in these communities, look at the institutional diversity, and you will see that what's really important to the future of the Interfaith Council is that we're not simply deriving people from different religious experiences, but from the population in general and the great institutions that constitute our society. So if you find yourself committing to ICANN, to the dialogues, to SOJA, to any of the work that's being presented to you of the council, that's our way of serving the world through the wisdom, the courage, and the tradition of the Interfaith Council. Second, as you review the outreach programs of the Interfaith Council, you are invited to discern how you might contribute your time, talents, abilities, creativity, and interest. You might even develop a whole new program. Again, if you look at the history of the Interfaith Council in more recent times, we suffered the loss of one of our most important programs, in one sense, only to create, invent, and respond to new programs. That oftentimes comes because individuals like yourself are willing to think outside the box and get in touch with the passions of your soul. 3, you are not simply here to conform to what was. If any one of us starts saying things like, well, we never did that before, well, we never heard that before, well, we don't do that, that's not in our tradition, then stand up and say, the divine has sent me to be the great gift of a new day is dawning in the Interfaith Council. A thought is about to be had that nobody had before, and the rest of us will send you flowers and rejoice in the moment. You're not here to conform. Don't come up to me now, what's the way I'm supposed to do this? All we ask is that you not be immoral or illegal. Outside of that, do not rob us of the gift of you. I also want you to remember that the greatest gift that you give is not your time, talent, creativities, and ability. The greatest gift you give is you. You're not the sum total of what you do. The other day, I asked somebody, how are you? And they said, well, work is going very, very well. The company is profitable. That's nice. How are you? Oh, is there a me apart from what I do? Well, not necessarily apart from, but the work gets done because of you. I don't know about you, but for me, simply to be in the presence of this community is comforting. It's one of the safest places on earth for me. I can say things here I can't say in my own faith tradition. There are many parts of my own faith tradition where if they heard what I said here, I'd be in deep trouble. That doesn't mean I don't get in deep trouble, but it means where's my support? So you might be one of those people who says, well, you know, I'm not all that involved. I'm sort of like the wallflower. I like to be present. And your presence can be the source of serenity, compassion, respect, and love. In one faith tradition we read, let your light so shine. The fourth element by way of introduction, if I may, every board, organization, or institution is born anew when there's a new member. Those of you who are joining the Interfaith Council are literally reinventing the Interfaith Council. It's being born anew. And all of us who may think that we are the committed members in the tradition are being renewed as well. When I see people excited about being on a council or a committee, I say to myself, wow, maybe I have to rediscover my own excitement. I forget how exciting it is to do this, how blessed it is to be this. Maybe in the past you had the unfortunate experience that if you joined the committee, you had to fit in, as opposed to the whole committee was reborn. Happens in neighborhoods. When a new family moves into a neighborhood, the whole community is reborn. Finally, by way of introduction, since our reason for being is motivated by interfaith spiritual practice, interfaith love and respect, it will be important for us to reflect upon what we mean by the word interfaith or interreligious or interspiritual. So let's pause there for a moment, take a deep breath. Let me give you a few seconds to let your soul catch up with you, maybe to take some notes, some thoughts, a reflective moment. Thank you so much. Everybody okay? Remember how precious it is to be in the presence of one another. Now, here's what I've discovered over the years. We use the word interfaith, or is it interreligious, or is it interspiritual? We know it's inter something. The problem with the word faith, spiritual, religion, is that oddly enough, they're too narrow. So we use the word interfaith as a word of convenience. You will have noticed that the Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County does not over-define the word interfaith. It's sort of loose because we want it to be embracive. I'm the executive director of the Interfaith Peace Project of Northern California. If I were to name the Interfaith Peace Project today, I would have called it the InterPath Project, because people come from diverse cultures, spirituality, religions, and points of view. In other words, we're on pathways. There are several things I would like to share with you about the journey of interfaith relationship and interfaith spirituality. An ongoing dialogue in the council, and as a result of our social and service outreach, is that when people of diverse faith traditions meet, they intersect and they influence each other. I am in particularly very, very much concerned to study and to celebrate that intersection of diversity. What happens when people of diverse pathways meet? Now, you know what can happen. I'm going to go to an interfaith meeting, but since I come from a particular tradition, I'm going to go to that interfaith meeting to make sure I'm not infected, to make sure I'm not unduly influenced by the heresies and the errors of other people's ways of thinking. So I wrap myself up in theological bubble wrap, and then I go and meet you. I want to respect you, but I got to insulate myself from you. People in my own tradition, they say, oh, Father, you do interfaith work because you're trying to make everybody else Catholic. No, I'm not. Oh, then you're unfaithful to the church. Oh, well, okay. What might be another way to do this is to see how the divine has manifested itself in the beauty of another person. Let's watch the journey now. This is going to be a little technical, but we'll see. 1893, the Parliament of the World Religions meets in Chicago on September the 11th. Why? 1893, because it's the Chicago's World Fair. It is the first time that electric lights will light up a building on the interior of the building. The Ferris wheel will show up. Entrepreneurs and inventors from all over the world came together, and certain people, especially from India, had the idea, well, if the business people, the entrepreneurs and the inventors are getting together, why should not the religions get together? And so on September the 11th, 1893, women, men came together and began to talk about what it is to live in a world of diverse spiritual traditions and what might be the view. One of the philosophies that emerged that was very, very strong, that has created real reaction, especially in the United States, is the quest for one religion. Some of the influences in the original Parliament of 1893 suggested that the religions would evolve into a oneness. And of course, notice the logic of that. If there's one divine, if the divine is unified, then everything will come home to the divine. There'll be an emergence into one religion. And you may have heard people who react against one world government, one church, and all that kind, because they see that as negative. They see it as the loss of their identity. Remember, people derive a strong sense of individuality, purpose, and meaning for their lives in their faith tradition. Anything that threatens their faith tradition doesn't simply threaten what they believe, but how they make sense out of life. The Parliament of the World Religions, with its great optimistic view in 1893, crashed into the ground with World War I and World War II. When World War I and II came along, these movements to greater consciousness and oneness within the world hit rock bottom. However, if you look at the history of the documentation, and I have that in other places, you will see that all through World War I and II, international people attempted to bring cooperation, at least out of the fear that if human beings on Earth do not discover how to live with each other, then we will devastate the world. So one of the reasons for interfaith or international cooperation was to bring peace and justice to the world. There are several documents you might look at. One, look at the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, published originally on December the 10th, 1948. And since then, it has undergone development. Also consider the Declaration toward a Global Ethics by the Parliament of the World Religion, published in 1993. And more recently, look at the work of Karen Armstrong, and in particular, the Charter of Compassion. These kinds of documentation did not come up out of idealism. They came up out of the tragedy of war, famine, racism, sexism in the world. So resist the temptation that people who do the work that we do have to have enormous amounts of leisure. We have to go to the mountain and have a mystical vision from on high. Most of the work in the interfaith world was born out of the tragedy that besets humankind. Look at the civil rights movement in the United States. It was the mysticism that was born by being beaten in the street, by being chained to a wall and being sold as an animal. Let's come closer to our time. In more recent times, it has been suggested that the essence of interfaith work is to discover what we have in common. So let's get the diverse people together from different faith traditions and emphasize what we have in common. Now, I have a critique of that. Here's the problem with commonality. Oh, I just love you because you remind me of me. We have that in common. We say the same thing differently. Now, I mean, no disrespect to commonality. Commonality is a wonderful way to come together. As a matter of fact, the Interfaith Council discerned how it is we might come together. Not because we have commonality in our belief, but we have love in our hearts for the poor, the imprisoned, hurting youth, drug addiction, street people, houselessness. Behind all of those issues are real people. Long before we are involved with issues, we're in love with people. Or we get tempted to fall in love with issues and get irritated by people. So the point of commonality is not doctrine and belief and beliefs. The point of commonality is real live people and our deep concern for them. The common cause. As a matter of fact, my dear friend, if you look at the history of the Interfaith Council, back when it was an ecumenical organization for certain Christian churches, you will see that the history of the council reflects the development of the interfaith movement in the world. Let's come closer to our own time. Points of commonality in our belief can bring mutual understanding and respect. I didn't know that. We believe the same thing. We say it differently. How delightful is that? You have an outreach to the poor. We have an outreach to the poor. Maybe we should work together. How wonderful is that? But then you begin to meet the other person. And in meeting the other person, something touches your mind, heart, and soul. As one tradition puts it, I'm a better me because I met you. Now, dare I say it? What I really love about you is that you're not me. That you actually think something differently. That you experience something differently. Don't you love it when you go to a restaurant and somebody says, did you ever eat this? No. Try it. You'll like it. I'm not sure. Go on, try it. I'll order it, give you a look. This is wonderful. It's something different. See, I was told that if you put two people in the room and there's differences, you'll get an argument. I beg to differ. When we come together with our uniqueness, we get delighted. Differences can be the source of delight. As a matter of fact, when you meet people in the street and people with difficulties, do not relate to them as your opportunity to be generous. Learn from them. One faith tradition said this: we must meet the poor. They have something to teach us. We're not a group of people that come together and keep emphasizing what we agree on. We love to be challenged. We love to be taken places we've never been before. Commonality and differences can work together and fostering dialogue, and fostering respect, understanding, cooperation, and peace. So while you may discern what project you're going to work on, what work you're going to do, the greatest gift you bring is the gift of you. Let me conclude by saying a few things about dialogue, because dialogue is another word like interfaith. Everybody uses it, but what is it? Oddly enough, we need the dialogue about dialogue. First, I would say to you, you must ask yourself the question, what does it mean for you to be an interfaith practitioner? Now, here's one perspective. You might think and identify that you are a representative from your faith tradition. But think about that for a moment. Somebody actually said to me once, well, Father Tom, you're the Catholic representative. I said, oh yeah, that's me. I represent 1 billion people. I haven't even met 1 billion people. I haven't even met Catholics all over the world. Who appointed me as their representative? Who would I'm going to represent 1 billion people. You have a minute? So even if I do say something about my own faith tradition, I have to do so with humility, apology. I'm not simply a representative, I'm a practitioner. I can't give you world Catholicism. All I can give you is a window into what it might mean to me. So representation, I represent my faith community, always must be carried with humility, generosity, and an awful lot of humor. So when we dialogue, well, if we go to recovery programs like AA will say this, wow, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So it seems that the divine is to hear twice as much and speak half as much. So the essence of dialogue, oddly enough, is to listen. And there's a difference between hearing something and listening to someone. Don't know about you, but when I listen to people, I immediately start making my own agenda. Oh, I agree. I disagree. Well, that's silly. I never heard that before. I could do that better. I have to quiet the noise within me. So the essence of dialogue is the willingness to listen to another. One wonderful person put it this way, Carrie Jackson, we listen another person into life. I so listen to you that I forget who I am. That's why dialogue is not what we do for 20 minutes on a Thursday morning. Dialogue is what we do in every minute of our lives. And now for the good news. Your participation in the Interfaith Council is not every once in a while. It's not on a meeting on Thursday. It's not at a committee meeting with a project. It's in everything you do, 24/7. Even if your term of office runs out, you're Interfaith Contra Costa County perspective will go on forever. It is a way of being. Finally, let's look at our covenant. In solidarity, we do together what no one of us can do alone. We resist the temptation to compare. You do more than I do. We do it together. On those days when I think you're not doing enough, and on those days when you think I'm not doing enough, we commit ourselves in solidarity because we do this together in all the affairs of our lives. Our dialogue is an interfaith dialogue. We seek oneness in community, commonality of purpose, and blessedness of diversity. We listen to multiple points of view, to delight, to learn, to be challenged. We are responsible for the growth of the Interfaith Council in everything we do. You now are now a living witness to the Interfaith Council if you get on BART, if you go to a movie, if you buy a bag. The governing board provides leadership because you provide wisdom. The leadership is not overlords telling you what to do. But the governing board comes together to discern the wisdom, the intelligence, the courage, the fortitude, the creativity of the council. We are imbued with interfaith responsibility. The word responsibility for me means the ability to respond. That in all of the responses of my life, in all the affairs of my life, I represent the council. I am the council. It's for the well-being of the people the council serves. The council is not an end in itself. It is our privilege to be of service to the people we meet. So with all apology for anything I may have said that was wrong, insensitive, or unkind, that was never the intent. Sometimes in the enthusiasm of the moment, we may say things we don't intend. That's why in the dialogue, we have the opportunity to repent and to grow in wisdom. I, in particular, look forward to all the times I will grow in wisdom because of you. We can do together what no one of us can do alone. And I'm a better me because I met you. And we're a better us because we met one another. Love you. Be at peace.
I don't know about any of you, but I lost count of the holy chills that I got. Thank you so much, Father Tom. That was lovely. And now we get to practice that lovely witness of you in our small dialogue groups. Will, do you want me to break out into small groups, or do you want to stay in the large one?
I've got it set up for us to be able to break up everyone inside Zoom into groups of 3 or 4 already.
Great.
And then
Okay.
we're going to have one group here.
Awesome. Great. So we'll go ahead and open
And the
those
theme is there
rooms
in your
up.
agenda, and it's in your chat room. From what you heard Father Tom share about interfaith, interspiritual, how we can best describe our work, what stood out to you the most? So hit the join button once your invitation to the breakout rooms comes. And this just in case someone comes back out. Thank you. Please join one of the breakout rooms, folks at home, and then we're going to have our conversation here.
ਉਹ ਤੇ ਲੈਕਚਰ 12 ਤਰੀਕ ਨੂੰ ਆਏ
The announcements.
Rodney, I can't hear you yet. Did you say something?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I already welcomed the community announcements. I'm so sorry. I didn't even recognize you weren't here.
Sorry, we were still in our own little small group.
So sorry. So welcome back, Will.
Dave has an announcement.
Will,
Yes.
I was hoping that you would say a word about the Parliament of World Religions coming up next summer.
Oh, I can say it, or you can say it. Yeah, the Parliament of World Religion meets every 3 or 4 years, and they're meeting in Chicago next year. This, I think, July, right? August. Thank you. And there are several of us who plan to go, and we're going to have trying to find some combined housing. Airbnb kind of a house. So we'd love to have as many people as could come join us. This is I think the largest world gathering of the interfaith community. It spans over 4 or 5 days, I believe, and just tons of presentations. So it should be really fun to kind of get even a broader perspective of interfaith. So in addition to that, I wanted to just make a couple comments about eye care. We have a really big project coming up next week. Erica Baines is spearheading this for the nonprofit Food for Thought. And we are going to have over 100 volunteers packing food boxes to deliver to needy families in the Richmond area and through the Richmond School District. The critical needs we still need for volunteers, and we're looking for any community volunteers, is we need a truck on Wednesday next week, and maybe a couple people who have strong backs. So you can come with a truck without a strong back, but would really appreciate if there's you can find any volunteers through your faith community, or you'd like to volunteer. I'd also like to share, we have a kind of a new initiative next year in that we're going to do an ongoing service project. The Baba Kushna from the Baha'i community of Central County has organized a bi-monthly service project at White Pony Express, and looking for other faith communities that would join in and partnering with him. So maybe 1 or 2 other faith communities that could just every other month, you have a day that you go and serve at White Pony and serve together. So this, rather than being just a once and done, it's again 6 times next year. So we'd really appreciate if faith communities would raise their hand and participate with the Baha'i community. And then lastly, Terry Moss, who co-leads the eye care committee along with me, we would love to come to your social justice committee and present there and just talk about what we do and see if there's something we could work together on related to social justice committee. So please extend an invitation to us if you can to do that. Thank you.
And I'll just mention that the Parliament of the World's Religions is August 14th to 18th in Chicago, Illinois, 2023. There will be some hotel rooms nearby the convention center where it will be hosted, but we're going to try and see if we can have a common house where many of us are staying so that we can talk about all of the different things we experience during the day and kind of have a home base if possible. Any other announcements?
I'll just repeat mine since many people were gone, that I will be glad to pick up eyeglasses for the North Concord shelter. That could be reading glasses or a prescription. And if you want to eat or drop them off in the office, I'll get a box for that. And or I'll be glad to pick them up. You could also, what I'd like to do is, I have my church facility, faith group is collecting them. So if you want to start a collection, that would be great too.
Some people have asked about whether or not we'll be able to share this. This will go up on our YouTube channel. And so once the recording's finished, in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, I'll get it up on the YouTube channel and I'll send you the handout that Father Tom shared with me. And so if you missed the meeting today, or if you see anyone that's not here, please let them know how important this orientation was for our ongoing interfaith work. I think, Rodney, I think we're ready to move on.
Great. Well, I think our closing remarks and benediction today are with Cynthia Peters from First Church of Christ Science.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, very nice to be here. And my little assignment for today is to introduce myself as a member of the Pleasant Hill First Church of Christ Scientist. And so Will suggested that I try to introduce you to what it was that got me interested in Christian Science. So I'll say initially, it really was through the Christian Science Monitor. And my husband, now, he brought over while we were courting a copy of the Monitor. And I just was so taken by the format and how the news was covered. Yes, the news is covered, and it is covered in a very different way from the way you see it on so many newspapers, where they'll have, the front page will be all these disastrous things that have occurred in the last day or week or so. And those items it's not that they're ignored or that they're on the next to the last page, but it's not on the front page in the wording and all that we somehow come to anticipate. It's really a much more helpful way to me. And then there are a variety of articles too that really caught my interest. And some quotes even that I clipped out and I still use today. And when I send cards to people, and just the language that is used is so generally, very positive and gets you to thinking. Then the next big thing is that a few years after I started reading the Monitor, I did have a health problem that came up. And so healing is the big focus in in Christian Science, and putting God first, so that you look to God for help. And I really was attracted to, or am attracted to, the application that there is to daily life in all that you read, and you know, the lessons that we have. It's much. I grew up in a Protestant church, but I just don't remember. I don't remember the emphasis on application that we have. We study one lesson every week that has a particular focus, and it's so every day you're rereading this lesson, and of course, as you reread things, you know, your mind it takes in different information, and a lot of times you see things and read things that, oh, I didn't remember this, you know, and oh, that really applies to me. Or anyway, I do like that. Just one lesson every week. Then, and the lesson is divided between scriptural parts and parts from Mary Baker Eddy from her book called Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures. And she is the person who was healed of a terrible accident falling on the ice. And the medical people said, nope, sorry, you're never going to recover from this. This is your end. Well, she picked up her Bible, started reading and reading and reading. And out of that came Christian Science. Also, I enjoy what we call testimony meetings on Wednesday nights, so that we can all get together and share inspirations and healings. It could be some improvement in the way things are going in the work environment. You know, it doesn't have to be a physical health healing, but the idea is there are healings in all parts of our lives. Then the other thing is that on Sundays, what we call our sermon is really this lesson read by people from the church, volunteers from the church, but the same volunteers all year long. And they read again this, what we call the sermon, but it's again divided between the Bible and Science and Health. Then, so the advantage I see in that is that I've heard a lot of wonderful sermons in other churches that I've really appreciated. But here, we don't have any personality that we're zooming into. So it's really, you know, all from scriptures. Then the emphasis that we are all students of Christian Science. We are students. We don't know everything by any means. We're just constantly learning. Then in about 2008, I retired from my daytime, my teaching job, and I began teaching Sunday school. And my first student was in 3rd grade at the time, and we continued together until he turned 20, which is the last year that students have Sunday school in the Christian Science tradition. And now he has graduated from UC Santa Barbara, and January 5th, he goes to Boston. He's going to be an intern for the Christian Science Monitor. I'm so excited for him, you know, to be dealing with these wonderful people. And he's a great writer. And I just really see a wonderful future for him. And one last thing, I want to say that my dad participated in this Interfaith Council.
Oh.
Okay.
Wow,
Thank you.
I didn't know that. That's great. Well, thanks, everybody. We appreciate your participation, and we'll get the recording up as soon as possible, but we'll continue doing all of our work together as we can. If you are the recorder for your small group, would you please send any of the responses that you'd like to share for the minutes to Interfaith CCCC, that's 4 C's, interfaith4cs@gmail.com. That would be great. Anything else, Rodney?
No, just thanks everyone, and it was lovely to be together. So thank you for the gift of you.